Hello everyone, this is Jeananne and I am a member of Real Women in Trucking. It's been on my mind really heavily lately that I need to share my initial training experience into trucking, which was in 2001, and it was with CRST. So the reason why I want to share this story is because at the time I didn't know any better. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't really understand, or I wasn't thinking in terms of basic rights that I should have or what I should really expect from a trainer. I didn't know anything. You know what I mean? So I know that some of you are out there right now and you're with a horrendous trainer who is not training you, whether it's male or female. They're not training you. They're not giving you the time. They're not backing with you, teaching you how to back, taking you, to the side and backing with you for like 4 hours, just to make sure you understand how to back the truck, So let me start with my initial experience. Now, I was trained in a truck driving school in Southern California, United States Truck Driving School. And I'm just going to be honest, okay? And they might have changed since then. I don't even know if they still exist. But this is, kind of damning, but it was the truth of how it worked at the time that I was there, which was in 2001, okay? Well, it was a 3-week course. The first week, they're teaching you the textbook stuff. So you have like this big, thick book that they give you. But in reality, you didn't really have to read it. They didn't really assign you to read a chapter at a time and like to do this really studious task of really learning what was in the book. Every day they just kind of taught you some specific things. And what it turns out is at the end of the week, they basically only taught you what was going to be on the test. Nothing else, really. And this is the really damning part. I don't know who was in charge. I can't give you dates, nothing. But this is really what happened. The day before we go to take our test at the DMV to get our permit, they give us all of the versions of the California test. And I'm not kidding. They gave me all of the versions so that I could pass. And I am disgusted with cheating. I don't take part in cheating. I hate cheating. And I had actually studied that week. But I knew that all the other people, they were really grateful. They were like, oh, thank God, we got these tests. And they had the answers marked. So all you had to do was really study the different versions. So that way, when you got there, you could answer them. Okay. Well, I had studied, but I think I did look at the test. But in any case, I got my permit and so did everyone else. Right? So then the second week, you're in a little yard and you're just taking turns, backing and doing all the little maneuvers that you're supposed to do. But they're only teaching you what you need, again, to pass now the driving test at the DMV and your pre-trip test. Right? So they're not giving you like a really thorough understanding of the different situations that you'll need to back up. They're just teaching you how to get it between the cones, So it's not really thorough, and I believe that's still how it goes these days. They teach you the bare minimum that's going to get you past the test, right? Then the third week, they take you on the road, and if you're lucky, you'll maybe only have 2 or 3 people in the truck with you that you're taking turns, so you get like very minimal drive time. If you're lucky, an hour and a half a day for like a week, if you're lucky, because you're sharing the truck with a group, so you don't have all that one-on-one time. So then I had to actually go to the DMV to get tested. I wasn't tested at a carrier, and I passed the first time, and I had studied, I had, did everything I could possibly do. I took to it really well. I passed, but some of the other people didn't. They had to wait and take the test the second time. Anyway, I made it through, right? But then I joined with CRST. So this is a true story with CRST. I didn't even know when I joined CRST, because my truck driving school, they gave me basically 3 recruiters came in, one for CRST, one for Gainey, and then there was another company, I forgot the name of them. And the only difference between them, which helped me make my decision, was CRST paid 100% of the tuition if you stayed with them a year. Gainey paid 95% if you stayed with them a year, and the other one paid 95%. So I chose CRST because they paid 100%. Not knowing that they were a team company and not even understanding the concept of a team company or the team training model, nothing, right? I was just super excited I was going to be a truck driver. And so I showed up at orientation, and the room is packed with like 30 or 40 people. Then they start going through your resume or your application, which you thought was already done, right? And they're pulling people out of the room, including me, all day long, asking for W-2s and stuff. People are calling home, getting their W-2s faxed. I mean, it was chaos. And luckily I had all my paperwork. I was able to prove my prior employment, but it was really chaos, and some people were sent home. And CRST's guilty of doing this year after year. I was in 3 separate orientations over a few years period of time with CRST, and they did it the same way every time. So I think this was a standard thing. When I joined my other companies, I thought they were going to do the same thing, but then comes to find out we were fully hired before we showed up. They had already checked everything. So really this was a shady thing that was happening, And I think it's still happening. Hopefully they're cleaning up their act, but anyway. So I go through this 3-day orientation. They go through, just paperwork and getting you all signed up for all the insurance and everything. But then they take you on this very quick road test, which is like, I don't know, just 20 minutes. They just stick you in a truck, which had a different gear shift pattern than I had in truck driving school. So you had to kind of learn a new shifting pattern on the fly, right? And anyway, I managed to pass that, and then next thing you know, you're waiting for your trainer. And sometimes people have to wait like a week or 2 for their trainer, and they put you in a hotel room because they bring in too many students for the amount of trainers they have. And that's another part of the chaos. Then everybody's sitting around waiting for their trainer, speculating on who their trainer's going to be, nervous as hell. You don't know anything about anything. You don't know what's going to happen. So anyway, and I wasn't thinking in terms of being a female and, I'm going to get something bad's going to happen to me because I'm a female. I was thinking more like I want to be a truck driver, and I can't wait for my trainer to get there, So anyway, my trainer finally arrives, and I was young. I was about 26 years old, 25 years old. And he didn't really take me seriously from the start, right? But, I was very pleasant. We got along the first day, and I'm asking all these questions, and we had to go to a delivery, and I'm asking him all these questions, and he's starting to answer me just a little bit. But my first time driving, this was when, the first thing happened that really shouldn't happen, right? Is that our first load, I believe, was a team load, and it went all the way to Philadelphia from Southern California. So and I'm trusting him with all the paper logs and all this stuff, and anyway, he takes the first drive shift, goes up Cajon Pass into the desert, and gets on I-40, gets on a straightaway where there's not going to be any hills for a while, puts me in the driver's seat, gets me going, tells me I'm good, and says he has to go back and sleep because he was tired. He's been up all night, and so I'm very nervous, but I'm up there driving, but he now goes back there to sleep with the curtains open, and I don't know, like 2 hours later, I have to go to the bathroom, so I'm yelling at him like, hey, I gotta go to the bathroom, because I don't know how to pull into a rest area. I don't know how to do anything, I don't know what I should know. Anyway, all I knew is I needed his help. So finally he comes up and he helps me go into my first rest area. He helps me pull into a spot and I'm able to go to the bathroom. And, you know, from there, I go over my first hills and everything. I miss gears. I think he's up with me a little bit here, a little bit there, but basically I'm on my own the first week, right? Because I have, you know, I was really gung-ho and really just, my mind was in a place where I was going to do it no matter what. And I already knew how to read maps before I got there because my grandpa taught me. So that was helpful because I was doing my own navigation. I was finding my own truck stops. I was making typical mistakes, missing entrances, learning all the things the hard way. And he wasn't really much of a help, you know. Anyway, we get all the way to Philadelphia, and this is where it was my turn to drive because we're teaming, and he's supposed to be training me, but he's not really training me this whole week. We get to Philadelphia. It's my turn to deliver. He doesn't get up with me. I get up in the morning. I time it to get to this place. I have to map myself without his help through Philadelphia using the map. I do it, right? I make it. Somehow I go through downtown Philadelphia. I find where our location is. I go in there and I have to do my first drop and hook without his help. I hadn't even dropped a trailer. Truck driving school hadn't even told me how to drop a trailer. So I think I even tapped the trailer next to me trying to park it. And there was a guy in the truck. He comes out like he's ready to fight me, but then he sees me and he laughs and it's no big deal. But I did touch his trailer with my trailer because I didn't know what I was doing. All this time my trainer's behind the curtain. Finally, I get it all set up. I go in, I get the paperwork, knowing nothing, right? And he comes out, my trainer comes out of the curtains, clapping and laughing, and said, "I can't believe you did it." And I did do it. And then from that point on, he sort of semi-trained me and we kind of sort of became friends. But two other bad things happened during this time period, which I'm going to be just very candid about. One is I was going through a major downhill with a full load down from from Utah into Salt Lake City on I-80. And he tries to tell me that all truck drivers should be able, you don't need the Jake brake. You should be able to go down a hill full speed without the Jake brake. And he's a brand new driver himself. I mean, I think he has under a year experience, but I'm not in a place where I'm questioning these type things, you know. So I trust him. Well, anyway, we start going down the hill. I don't remember if I smoked my brakes, but when we finally, there's like a turn sort of at the bottom of the hill where you almost have to, the whole road goes kind of 90 degrees to the right. Well, in order to make that turn, I was basically out of control. And I had to go from the right lane, pretty much cross over all the way into the left lane, and there's several lanes, just to maintain control. And he knew he had screwed up by that point, and we somehow made it through that one alive. Luckily, there were no cars in those lanes. Otherwise, it would have been a disaster. He knew he screwed up, and that was, I think, a sobering moment for him. But I was very mad at him. I was very upset, but at the same time, I didn't know what to do about it. At the time, trucking was like a do or die thing, and I didn't want to, call and tell on him. I didn't want to do that kind of thing. So I didn't. There was another situation that arose, and that is he had me driving night shifts, and I'm a brand new driver. And any truck driver knows, I can drive night shifts now, and I got used to night shifts after 8 years of trucking. I'm used to night shifts. I can drive all night if I have to. But when you're brand new and you're not used to trucking and they stick you on a night shift, it's tough, and, well, anyway, he put pressure on me, and he, at the time, they were still legal. They were these little pills called Yellow Jackets, and they sold them at the truck stop. So they were legal, but they had ephedra in them. And I mean, at the time, people were using them for weight loss. They were using them for everything. College students were using them to stay up all night and study. They were like a big phenomenon because, you know, they pretty much kind of made you high, you know, but they were selling them in truck stops, and truck drivers were using them like crazy, and companies didn't want you to use them, but they weren't cracking down on it or anything, and they weren't an illegal drug, you know. But anyway, he tried, the first day with him, he tried to get me to use one of those things, or my first evening shift. And I absolutely refused for like the first week or two to use these things. But whenever he put me on a night shift, I couldn't last. I was telling him, hey, I'm sleepy, because I'm, you know, at least smart enough to yell back then, I'm sleepy, I can't drive. But he was giving me pressure to the point where I felt like if I was not able to continue one more night drive, he was going to fail me, you know. So one night, you know, out of desperation, I reached up, he showed me where they were, and I took one of those Yellow Jackets, and boom, I was high for like 3 or 4 hours in the middle of the night driving with, I mean, I was like high as a kite. I've never even done drugs in my life, so I don't have anything to compare it to. But all I can tell you is those things kept you awake. My fear sort of seemed to subside, and they were powerful, you know. So luckily, after a year, though, those became illegal and they were taken off the shelves, and I've never touched anything like that since. And I really, you know, but the point is that he put me in a situation, and the truth is, when you're out here with a trainer or a co-driver, and you don't know these people, and once you leave your home yard and you're with a stranger, it's like so many situations can arise, you know, that can be a problem. So anyway, that's a whole other story, you know. But here's the deal. CRST had a team training model, and they still do, where they're basically giving you team loads from the get-go, and your trainer somehow has to sleep and train you at the same time, and technically that can't even be done legally on the clock. I mean, yeah, you could say, well, the trainer can overlap the time at the end of your shift or at the beginning of your shift and get some training in, but a student actually needs the trainer really present all the time, because you're brand new and you don't know anything, and too many terrible things can happen, you know. But that's not, you know, how it works, you know. Anyway, so what's happening is a brand new student in a team training environment is having to drive on their own with their trainer trying to sleep a lot. And maybe the trainer's willing to get up in the middle of their sleep and jump up here and help with this, help with that. But then the trainer's not actually getting their allotted 10-hour sleep break before they have to drive the full shift. Because you're teaming. In a teaming situation, you're driving one after the other on opposite shifts. So technically, the trainer physically cannot legally be present. And if they are, they're losing sleep. Okay, so that's why the team training model, now that after years of hindsight, and I've grown wiser, and I realize that this is something that is not helpful to the students, to the public, not even to the trainers trying to do it under these conditions. Like, the only people winning out of the team training model is the company, because they're trying to run this team freight, which pays more, and it has to go across the U.S. faster. You know what I mean? Like, and they're doing it with kind of like cheap labor, because a lot of the trainers have, you know, like anywhere between 6 months of experience to a year experience. So you have these young trainers that don't have a lot of experience training in the first place, trying to train the brand new drivers coming in. And to be honest, the only way the model can work like that is to have people that don't know any better. Like, I didn't know any better at the time, and I'm sure that someone's out there right now driving that doesn't know any better. And they're just brand new to trucking, and their trainers not being present, they're not going the extra mile really training them. And then when they're done training after the month and they didn't really get that much training, now they join a co-driver that has just as much experience as them, maybe someone they met in truck driving school, right? And they became friends with. Now they're excited they're going to drive together, but they only have now 1 month of training, and now they're co-drivers. And now they're having to help each other learn. And that's kind of how a lot of people learn. It's not an organized situation, but I have to say that there are companies like my current company now that don't train like that. These companies train drivers from the get-go to be solo, and the trainer is present like 90% of the time. The student's driving, the trainer's present, and they both in the trucks parks at night where they both can sleep, and then they get up in the next day and they're basically running solo loads. And in that scenario, they're actually getting really awesome training. So, I just wanted to share my experience of my initiation into trucking. Later, I became a trainer myself. And guess what? I only had like maybe a year and a couple months of experience when I became a trainer. And over time, I had about 16 students. And guess what? I didn't get much sleep. And it burnt me out. It was horrible. And certainly we weren't able to run legal logs, even though we were still on paper logs back then. Anyway, I have more I could say about the subject, but I just wanted to be honest, because it's time just to be honest, and it's time for us truck drivers to stand together and call BS, because it's right there in front of us, and I just want to be someone that helps, positive change happen, because change has to happen, one way or the other, because I care, and for a long time I didn't. A long time I just kind of like drove and listened to my music and blasted my own music. And I was having a great time trucking out here by myself, not really worried about everyone else, but now I look around and I realize that people need to be aware so that they can help themselves, I want to help people help themselves so that they know that when they get into a situation in one of these team companies and they're getting a crappy training experience, that it doesn't have to be like that, and really the drivers need to, make a stand and feel like they have support in doing so, and we here at Real Women in Trucking, we are here to make a difference. And anyway, that's all I got to say for now. Signing off. All right? Until next time, right? Bye.